Drake, is it time to put to bed the rumors of Deion Sanders possibly leaving Colorado after this year?
Absolutely. Deion saying put. There is no way in my mind that Deion Sanders leaves Colorado this offseason. I don't care what NFL job opens. I don't care if it's the Raiders. I don't care if it's the Dallas Cowboys. I think twofold. One, there won't be an NFL organization who is structurally sound that takes a chance on Deion. Why? Been a very, very successful head coach at the collegiate level. When we look at recent players who have become head coaches in the NFL, a lot of them are falling flat on their face. It's not an indictment against Deion. It's a chance you don't want to take if you're a GM that can't afford to take a chance. And that's the case for many GMs who are watching their teams lose so much that they're replacing a head coach. And past that, Deion is already building a roster for next season. He's already plugging in quarterbacks for next season with a Salter commitment. He is already putting together elite defensive players for the Buffs next year. I don't think, and Buff fans, this is where I want to come to you and say, hey, look, sorry that we were so not anti-Deion Sanders, but questioning whether or not he could win earlier this season. Sorry we did that. We were wrong. My foot's in my mouth. But if you truly trust Deion Sanders as someone who molds players, who molds young men, and who keeps his word, then you should wholly trust this offseason. Based on his rhetoric, he's not going anywhere. I believe the move would have already been made. Sorry there, TJ. I believe long pregnant pause there for me. I believe the move would have already been made, or you would hear inklings of Deion Sanders leaving Colorado. If you're a Colorado fan and you trust what he said, trust that he will be in Boulder next season.
Do you think some of the narratives or some of the stories that we hear from the Four Letter Network and other First Take, this, that, and the other, I'm not trying to get called out like Kirk did by Shannon Sharp, but do you think some of the narratives might die down around that?
No. I mean, think about this. So it's the same reason you and I are talking about it, TJ, but what we're doing is pumping up Deion Sanders as a football coach and a molder of young men. What I want to emphasize is that, yes, there is plenty of content from both of us and creators out there who actually care about college football that want to celebrate what Deion has done. From an HBCU to Colorado, taking HBCU transfers and giving them a chance to win the Heisman Trophy at Colorado, who's not known for its Heisman Trophy winners. We need to celebrate that, not mar this in controversy that a new head coaching job is open. The Las Vegas Raiders. Will it be Deion Sanders? Stop. The headline should be Deion Sanders is staying put at Colorado until that's proven otherwise. I don't think it will be, but we've talked about it all week. We'll continue to talk about it. The Four Letters will say whatever they want to promote anything but the goodness of college football. Only clicks and controversy. And as long as that's the case, it's not worth turning on.
Yeah, they certainly do it from an angle of they don't love the sport like we do. They don't, Well,
TJ, think about it. There's going to be a comment. It's like, well, you don't want ESPN talking about it. When you guys are talking about it. Yes, for promotion of the sport, not for promotion of ourselves, because I do believe Deion Sanders is right for Colorado. You're not going to get that when you turn on First Take.
Yeah, how many times does Coach Prime have to say no before they stop? It's what's the line from Mean Girls? The limit doesn't exist. What are your thoughts on just the way that he is building this roster compared to his time at Jackson State, and kind of thinking that probably lends itself to him staying as well?
That's such a big part of this for me is the end of his tenure at Jackson State. He wasn't sitting there blowing hot air up the skirt of his team or national media, who was covering Deion Sanders pretty closely at the time, by the way. And TJ, I love that you've blown up the screen here in my nutcrackers. I'm back in my childhood bedroom visiting the family for the weekend. And I do believe that Deion Sanders at Jackson State didn't give you a false rhetoric at the end that, I'm going to build a roster to compete for a national championship next year. And my son and I are coming back. And Travis Hunter's going, no. You knew when the end was near for Deion because he didn't hide it. And I don't believe at Colorado he would do anything differently. He's attacked the transfer portal. His assistant coaches have as well. And if he was looking for other jobs, he wouldn't be preparing for the bowl game like he is. His players wouldn't be playing in this bowl game like they are. He's had little to no opt-outs, little to no guys entering the transfer portal that were legitimate contenders this season. That all points to their head coach being back. If he doesn't come back, they'll be blindsided. I'll be blindsided. We'll all be blindsided. And that's why I think a guy who has been so adamant about his word and his word carrying weight won't actually leave.
Yeah, the idea to me that he would, let's be honest with ourselves, Shedeur and Travis and anybody considering the NFL, and besides those guys alone, anyone that's playing in a bowl game, Cam Ward, we'll talk about Iowa State here in a minute, anyone that's playing in a bowl game is legitimately risking things to do that. And if Coach Prime was just about to quit in a week, right? The game's on Saturday. If he was about to turn in his whistle on Sunday, it doesn't feel like to me that he would risk those things or that he would be working as hard as he's doing. And so you mentioned it, and I'm just doubling down on your take, but the idea that he is risking that, Shedor's risking that, and Travis is risking that, just speaks to his one character, which people love to question, and his word. And to me, those are the biggest evidences and why I do think he'll be back.
Yeah, there are already NFL jobs that are open right now. The Chicago Bears could be on the phone with Deion Sanders, and I do believe that was the case. Because of how prevalent social media is today, we would know. Somebody would know. Everything gets leaked, and typically it's an intentional leak. Deion's not flirting with other jobs. We've heard of college coaches who are in that boat. Jim Harbaugh, very early on last year, was rumored, hey, no matter where Michigan lands, he is likely going to at least eye an NFL job and get back there with his brother. Haven't heard that about Deion, and his players are still right there beside him. I'm just, again, I would be very surprised if he makes this move. And maybe the biggest piece of that, outside of just his word and what he's given us, is that he's building a program. The economy of Boulder is seeing a record growth because of one man that is an African-American head coach at Colorado. Something that has not happened before at this level is occurring in that state, in that area, because of Deion Sanders. And I'm not sure if he's ready for that to change. It fires me up the Big 12 has this kind of representation and that Deion Sanders has made this kind of name for himself as a legitimate college football coach and not a carny, not a shtick, not a sideshow, but someone who's going to win football games. After 2 years, I'm confident he's not ready to give that up.
Speaking of that, and speaking of the future, it is very early here on Christmas Eve when we talk about this, but I'll ask you, since we're here talking about it, how much room is there for Colorado, considering what they're losing, which is massive? Yeah. How much room is there for them to grow in the Big 12? Well, you mentioned him building a program. Let's talk about 2025 just very briefly before we go.
Yeah, you lose a quarterback who's the guy's son. You lose a pretty solid defender who's the guy's son. You lose a wide receiver and a corner who are both All-American level, and they're the same player. That's the guy who won the Heisman and Travis Hunter. Without those three next year, it'll be different in Boulder, but a chance for Colorado to show that Deion can win without those guys. And I do believe when he hits the recruiting trail in the portal, all he's got to do is say, I'm Deion Sanders, and I win football games. And that's gonna speak to a lot of players over a guy like Eli Drinkowitz that walks in your living room. He's a smooth talker. He's a very good recruiter, but then Deion Sanders walks in with Super Bowl rings and says, come play at the highest level. We're going to have fun while we do it. We're going to win, and I'm going to get you to the NFL. That's a guy who can win a ton of recruiting battles this offseason. He'll do it in the transfer portal, and next year, Colorado's a top 5 team again in the Big 12. They will vie for a Big 12 title, and I would say very confidently, go even without knowing the roster, just given what Deion did in year 2 to turn this whole thing around, they will be vying for a Big 12 title in that conversation by the time week 14 rolls around.
All the narratives were that he couldn't win in Colorado. It is, I mean, I'm predicting the future right here, right? There's my crystal ball. All the narratives now are going to be that he can't win without Shedeur and Travis. Mm-hmm. And it is going to be fun to watch Deion absolutely just lavish and enjoy all of that talk over the next 9 months and then go out and prove people wrong.
Yeah, we were wrong. I mean, I won't completely speak for you, but I know we recorded a show a couple weeks in that said, shoot, is this experiment going to work out? And come to find out, it wasn't even an experiment. It was a confidence in Deion that worked. And my foot's in my mouth. The better he is, I think the better that we all do in college football as teams that aren't considered as your Alabamas or Florida States help grow the game.
Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
At Ella Big 12 or at Drake C. Toll on Twitter and wherever you find your podcast with Locked On Big 12.